Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. This is Cowboy Cartel, the podcast. I'm Joe,
I'm Connor.
And I'm Lorena.
and we have very special guest, Keith Mundy, president of American Hat Company, with us tonight. Thank you for being here, Keith, and welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been,
Man, you guys got quite a setup there.
hey, we try. We try.
Go big or go home.
That's right.
I like it. Yeah.
So we've got a lot of questions for Keith, and we're going to be taking viewer questions a little later. So stick around till the end anyway. But first, this is so awkward. We usually say thank you to American Hat and Joby's Hats, two of the biggest supporters of the channel, and we really appreciate their support. It's awkward with you being here. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Keith.
You're very welcome. I like your guys' passion for hats.
Well, thank you.
That's the thing that I like. And, you're just opening up the discussion and educating more people on hats. Well, that's good. You're doing a good thing.
Well, we're trying, and we appreciate it. But, American Hat is the official hat of Cowboy Cartel, and Joby is our official shaper. So if you need an American, give Joby a call. He's got you hooked up.
There you go.
There you go. All right. So let's get into it. We had a lot of stuff to talk about. I got like 25 note cards here.
Holy cow.
I know, right?
So hope my bladder can hold out.
we might take a break and we'll come back.
At my age, when you got to go, you got to go.
There you go. So you have an interesting story because you started out as a psychology and education major.
Yeah.
And so how did you wind up at Cinch or Miller International?
Well, I always looked up to my teachers, and I had some very inspiring teachers growing up. I had a teacher that played professional baseball, and I just thought the guy walked on water and was super cool. And so I kind of wanted to follow in those footsteps and be a coach. And then what better thing to pair with coaching than psychology? So I went to school to do that. And then, as fate would have it, I had to do my student teaching, and they sent me to a place just outside of Los Angeles that was not a great place to go. And at the same time, in the summers, I was working in the construction business, and I started to get some offers from people to frame their house, and so I made more money doing that than I would have to be a coach.
Right.
And so I just shifted gears, and I went, okay, well, the handwriting's on the wall, and went into the construction business, and then that led me into the metal fireplace business. So I was a subcontractor. We had a company in Southern California called Western Fireplace Distributors, and we had 180 guys running around, and we were doing 1,900 fireplaces a month. So that's that's what I was doing. I was in the construction business, and then ironically, we sold that company. And I took some time off and built my roping arena and did a bunch of other things that I've always wanted to do. And one thing led to another. Then I got the wild hair and I wanted to move to Boise, Idaho. So I just wanted to get my kids out of Southern California.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Well, when I came back, I went on a roping trip to Idaho with a friend, and then I came back home. And a neighbor called and said, hey, my Nick missed the bus. Can you take him to school? And I said, sure. So I picked him up, took him to school, a high school there. And, I got to the thing. I said, okay, there you go. Have a great day. And he's like, no, you got to come check me in. So we got to the door and they buzzed us in. And then now we're in this foyer and the receptionist is behind glass. And I had to sign this paperwork. And then they buzz him into the school. They buzz me out. And I went, uh-oh, my kids aren't going here. And so then I started, turning on. And Idaho had some beautiful schools. Idaho was like Chino, California, my hometown where I grew up. And I just told my wife, I said, let's move. Let's get out of here. Let's go to Idaho. Before the girls get boyfriends and get entrenched in school, my oldest daughter was getting ready to go into 7th grade, and my youngest was going into 6th grade. So they went to 6th and 7th grade in Idaho.
Okay.
And that was the best move I ever made. It was hard because I moved from the family ranch, and I moved from a roping arena that I had built with lights and all of the things, but I just felt like I got to get my kids out of here. So that's what we did.
So did you rodeo when you were younger?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Team roped.
Okay.
But I was never, I was a novice, let's say that. I put on my own ropings and did that thing, and so that was a lot of fun. But I never was good enough to. I went to a few PRC rodeos, um, but you're just going to get your name called and get your picture taken. So
Sure.
I didn't want to do that.
So in Idaho, how did you wind up Idaho to you were Denver, right, for Cinch?
Yeah. So Idaho, I worked for Cinch in Idaho.
Okay.
I was a Pacific Northwest sales rep. So basically, I traveled and went and 4 times a year, spring, summer, fall, and holiday, and show the Cinch, Krugerrell, Rockies, Southern Thread line, Miller Ranch lines to customers, and then they booked what they wanted to buy. It was a great job. It was phenomenal. And at one point, I was staying in a Motel 6, and my wife in Pendleton, Oregon, as a matter of fact, and my wife sent me a thing, said, "Hey, you got to watch 2020 tonight," and they were doing some expose on hotel rooms with a black light.
Oh, I
Oh my
remember
God! Well,
those.
yeah. So from that, then I called, my I owed taxes, and I called my accountant. I said, "What can I do to mitigate my tax liability?" And that's when she said, "Well, you can buy a big vehicle, da, 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 da." And I said, like, what kind of a big vehicle? And so ended up buying a motorhome, a bus, a
Right.
diesel pusher bus, and a Hummer to offset my tax liability. And
Must be nice.
it was great because, long story short, now I'm traveling in a bus, and I have my clothes, my food, my bed sheets, everything, and I'm not having to unload everything to show the line. I'm bringing the customers in. And then one thing led to another. Once the girls graduated from high school, then I told Tara, I said, "Why don't you come with me?" And so she got a couple lines, or I got her some lines, and she traveled with me.
I heard that there was an American Hat Company salesman who did something similar to that. They had their own bus or own van. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a couple of them
Yeah.
that have that. Yeah, they have other lines too. So we only have one guy that's a complete uh, commission only rep, and he only has American Hat Company. Most of them have other lines.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I was thinking being an American Hat salesman was probably the easiest job in the world right now.
No, it's probably a difficult job because you're not able to take a lot of orders. I mean,
That's true.
we're only able to make so many hats, and that's been the challenge. Ever since I'll give credit to Taylor Sheridan and Patrick Gotch. The whole cowboy thing blew up, uh, became very popular, and we just we can't make enough hats and have them be good quality.
Right.
We can make more hats. That's not the problem. The problem is to keep the quality there.
Keep
And
going.
Keith Maddox and Susan Maddox were adamant about its quality. Period. Quality. So,
Well, I mean, it's great that you guys are maintaining the quality because, you know, I say all the time I could wear any hat I wanted to. I chose American Hat because I think you guys make a great product, and that's to me the best there is out there of all of the kind of off the shelf hats, right?
I think Keith Maddox actually changed that whole paradigm because the hats were getting cheaper. They were putting more X's in them. And so they were adding X's and trying to get the price down. So, you go buy a 20X for, ridiculous price. And Keith was frustrated because he said every cowboy needs a great pair of boots and a really good hat. Those are the two staples. And so he had a hard time finding a good hat. So that was he just felt like there was a hole in the market and he was going to fill it. So, that's when he bought American Hat Company and started making his own.
I mean, that's a great point. We had a podcast, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago where we talked about custom hats as in general, and then we got into that 100X. It was all a nylon hat. They put 100X in anything, right? They just
I looked online the other night and I saw 10,000X hat for $89. So it can be it's that whole thing's blown out of the water. Every company has their own kind of quality scale,
yeah,
and so it's the X's really don't mean a whole bunch. What means is feel it.
right.
And we'll talk a little bit if you want to about beaver hair.
Yeah.
Uh, so hair is measured in micromillimeters. So mink measures like 12 to 13 micromillimeters, beavers like 14, 15, hare is like 16, and then you get into hare, Hare,
Hmm.
rabbit 16, 17, and then you get to wool 18 to 25. So if I laid those out on the table here and you looked at them, you said, well, I can't tell one from the other. I don't know which is which.
Right.
So you cannot see it with your naked eye, but you can darn sure feel it with your fingers.
Yeah.
And so what a guy needs to do is learn to check a hat with his fingers. And I use these four fingers. So I run it around the hat, the brim, everywhere. And then I use my fingertips to run it around the base of the crown, like here.
Hmm.
Because if you feel that wavy or corrugated, they might have used too big of a body when they put the block in it,
Right.
and it will corrugate that. And so that sometimes will translate into a problem out here
Yeah.
if you can't get something to stay straight.
And I've seen that in some of those lower quality hats in the past, where you can feel that ripple around the
Mm-hmm.
crown. So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely, and I definitely want to get into the hats, but I'm still curious about. I got a couple questions about cinch. So were they always? Did they start out as a Western brand? Because I really didn't see them as a Western brand until, well, here in Texas, it's a
Yes,
huge
the
Western brand.
flagship brand there at it was when I went there, it was called Rocky Mountain Clothing Company, but the flagship brand was Rocky's Jeans.
Okay.
That was the big one. And so the big saying there was, I hate to see you leave, but I love to watch you go. Those jeans, those jeans made a woman look made her figure very flattering.
Okay.
So then in 96, Cinch came along. And then I think 98, Krill Girl. So those were just brands that we had some sales reps that were out on the road that, went to ropings and did stuff. And they noticed that the young guys were wearing Gap and Hilfiger and other things other than the standard Western jean. And so they went, oh, it looks like there's an opening in the market for wet. So they made the first jean that Cinch ever made was a green label. And at the time, it was considered kind of a baggier fit. It's not today, to today's standard, it's not. And then the Cinch brand took off. So that was a great ride. That was, phenomenal watching that brand grow. It grew in leaps and bounds. Cruel Girl, again, was the same, grew in leaps and bounds. And, we were constantly messing with the rise on the jeans. Um, the ladies wanted a lower rise jean, but you had to make it low enough that, everything wasn't hanging out the back when you sat on a horse. So, that was a challenge. And so that's what we set about to do. But we had, probably one of our most influential sales reps was a lady by the name of Brenda Van Newkirk, and she probably, uh, you know, probably one of the greatest sales rep that ever was. Uh, she's the one who I kind of started and worked under her. My first market, I worked in the same booth as her. And if you mixed up the jeans the way I had them in order, then it threw me all off. I was like, oh, this one, because I'm going by the catalog order, and Brenda, you know, taught me a lot. I listened to Brenda and another guy by the name of Sean Patrick, and that's kind of how I learned the jean business and the clothing business. And Brenda always had her eye out for the next thing coming. So
So how long were you at Cinch?
I was there from '99 till 2010.
And in 2010, you left and came to America.
Yeah.
So how long did you know Keith Maddox before you
I,
started at American?
I knew Keith quite a while before that. I knew him, well, ironically, when I moved to Idaho, the first thing I did in Idaho was I worked for a group out of Weiser, Idaho, and we sold fabric covered buildings, like for hay storage, for indoor arenas and stuff like that. And that we were headquartered out of Weiser, Idaho. Weiser, Idaho is where Keith Maddox's home ranch was.
Right.
So then, I knew Keith for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before, and before he bought American Hat Company.
Okay.
So, and then, and I wore other hats. And then once he bought American Hat Company is when I kind of had an allegiance to him. He'd always been a good friend. Plus, he was the guy that if you were a sales rep in the Western business, if there was a guy you wanted to mold yourself after or follow the model, it was Keith Maddox. I mean, he always dressed sharp, looked sharp. He was probably one of the best salesmen in the Western industry.
So what was that transition like? How did that happen? How did you go from?
Yeah, he had called at one point in time and asked me if I knew of anybody that maybe wanted to come over and help him at his company. And I said, let me think about it. I don't really know. And so I thought about it for quite a while, back and forth, and thought about different people. And uh, one day, well, I actually, when I left Cinch, I went and worked for Chris Cox for a year. Chris was doing some amazing things, obviously with horses in his TV program. So he was a friend of mine from Rancheros, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come help me for a year?" Because I had a year that I couldn't do anything in the clothing business, and so I went there, helped Chris for a year, and then from there, Keith Maddox called me and said, "You know, I got I got cancer, and I need somebody to help me at this company in the event something did happen bad." And I said, I go, "What about me? Could I do that job?" And he said, "Well, yeah, you can do it, but I can't afford you." And I said, "Well, the right people make you money and the wrong people cost you money."
Right.
And he said, "Well, when can we meet?" So we met. We met at Cooper's Barbecue right there in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And he said, "Write your number on a napkin." And I wrote mine. He wrote his, and we were miles apart. And I turned. He said, I knew it. I couldn't afford you." And he turned his over, and I go, "Well, I can't even live on that." And
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm sure that was a negotiation tactic on his part. He was pretty smart. And we just settled on something in the middle. And I said, "Yeah, I'll try that." I said, "I'd rather do that than, you know, I believed in him. I believed in the product, and who you at that point in time, who you work for. That was an important thing for me. I wanted to work for somebody that I trusted, that I looked up to, that I wanted to emulate their style and the way that they did business. And so he was all of those things, him and Susan. So we made a deal. I went to work for him like on July the 2nd. And then that year, right after NFR, he always called me Mr. Mundy. I don't know why that was. I mean, if it was weird saying your own name or whatever, but he said, "Mr. Mundy, what are you doing?" He said, "Come on in here." So I would go into his office, and he said, "What was the number you wrote on the napkin that day?" And I told him, "That's what I thought." And he proceeds to write a check out. He goes, "I'm gonna give you a bonus." And he said, "It'll get you to where you want to be." And I said, "Well, Keith, that's not necessary. I mean, I'm fine. I signed up for that number, and I'll do it for that number. I'm fine." And he, at that point, said, "Nope, that's what we're going to do." And then he said, "I got more good news." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "I'm going to get me a new truck." "Oh, great. That's phenomenal." So, um, and he said, "There's one out in the parking lot. It's got 26,000 miles on it. It'll be yours." So he, you know, he was very generous.
Right.
He treated me very, very good. I mean, it was fun working for him. It wasn't, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That must have been a really good NFR.
Yeah, it was good NFR too. Yeah.
So what was that? That was 2012,
2011.
11. Okay. So what was that like, working with an owner, but were you the president? Is that
Well,
what?
that's when he made me the president.
Yeah.
Um, it was great. It was not, there was, he, I'll say this, and everybody who knows him, I learned quickly that if we were going to do something radical or different, I kind of had to. I didn't want to ask him and have him say, "Nope, we're not doing that," because then I couldn't go back to him. So what I tried doing, I tried planting seeds, and then then I'd come back, sprinkle them a little bit, water them, fertilize them, and then eventually he'd say, "Hey, why don't we do this?" And I go, "Man, that's great.
That's a great
Great."
idea.
But he was ahead of his time. I mean, he thought outside the box. So
It's funny. Everybody we talked to at American, at Cody Bates, he loved Keith Maddox, and he says, I have video when we were talking. He said, we want to make him proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day.
So every day the hats are made with quality and care,
Yep.
because that's how he wanted them made.
Yep.
So you guys could do something different now, but you don't.
Nope, absolutely not. So there's a couple of things. When I went to work for Keith at Miller, we had business consultants come in, and so we would go to retreats. We'd go take the whole, management team and go to a mountain retreat and bring a consultant in. The consultant would then we'd do SWOT analysis and all kinds of other things. And I asked Keith, I said, "Do you believe in all that?" He goes, "Nope, nope, don't." And I said, "Well, what's your philosophy on all that?" He said, "Well, tomorrow morning we're going to get up and we're just going to do the right thing. And when we're done doing that one, we're going to do the next right thing. And then when you're done doing that, then we're going to think, okay, what's the next right thing?" He said, "Just keep doing that. Just keep stringing the right thing together and you'll be fine." And I went, man, I love that simplistic business philosophy. What's the right thing, irregardless of what it means to you? I know that we had an opportunity to sell a bunch of hats to a retailer by putting 20 X's in a 10. And he said, "No, I won't do it. I just refuse to do that." So he just did the right thing.
So there's a lot of different stories. But what was he's got a lot of mottos. You have a tattoo with his motto on it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I do. So he would say it all the time. And so it's on the inside of my arm. And I just wanted to, uh, wake up every day and remember this. And it's really, he would say, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room. And so it says Hat King plus X.
Right.
And the theory behind that is the fruit is out on the limb. So you got to just kind of inch out there. You got to take a little chance. You got to take a little risk. If you're going to hang on to the trunk, you're going to die right there in your comfort zone. And so I'm not saying you go jump out on the limb, because sometimes that doesn't work either. You fall.
Right.
But you got to take some chances. And as I sit here today, I'm the beneficiary of Keith and Susan Maddox taking a huge risk. Had it not worked, it would have cost them their home, their retirement savings, everything. But he went all in, and I after the fire, I envision him sitting at a poker table and just putting his hat back on his head and just, putting all of his chips in the middle and said, "I bet it all. I'm going to bet it all on American Hat Company." And that's what he did. That's what he did. And Susan the same. They risked it all. And so had it not worked out, Susan wouldn't be sitting in the position she's in right now. But they took a chance. They risked it all.
Let's talk about Positive Times.
Yep.
Because that's a brand. It was Keith's brand, and then you turned it into the patch that we know today.
Well, it was his brand. It wasn't my brand.
No, right.
And I wanted to use it when he was alive, and he said, "No, it's not about me. It's about the hat." And so I said, "Oh, okay." He wouldn't have it. And then when he died, I went to Susan and said, "Would it be okay if we use this Positive Times and we'll use it?" I said, "I don't know. It might last a couple of months or whatever." But see, he died September 4th of 2019. We had a celebration of life October 4th. Well, shortly thereafter, 2020 was COVID. And so by then we had Positive Times out on everything. And then on the back of hats, and people were asking, "What does that mean? What does that mean?" And we left it like that on purpose, because if you knew, you knew. If you didn't know, you wanted to know. And it's called branding beyond the logo. So, and in conjunction with that, he had asked me when I started, "How are we going to grow this? Because I don't have the money to do all the print ads and everything." I said, "We're going to use social media, what we're on right now." I said, "We're going to use social media." And he said, "How are we going to do that?" I said, "We're going to give something away every day." And he goes, "Oh, pump your brakes, Cowboy. I can't afford to give something away every day." I said, "Oh, yeah, you can." Anyway, so his oldest daughter, Treasure Maddox, lived in New York City and was working for Jimmy Choo. And so we basically, she started the Facebook page for American Hat. And the goal was to post a positive deal every morning when she got up. So she's getting up, an hour earlier than we are. So when everybody here got up, it was there. There was a positive thought, a positive saying. We at the time when we were using positive times, we just were giving that away. And so the theory there was we're not going to ask our customers and followers for anything. We're going to give them something free. And so I had lots of people call me. I had a guy call me and say, my wife was going through breast cancer, and he said, you have no idea what that positive thought meant to us each morning that we got up and her going through her treatments and everything. He says, that's the first thing we look for. That's the first thing we kind of shared in the morning was that positive thought. So it fit right in with his positive times.
And you guys continued that positive thought to this day.
Yeah,
It's still
absolutely. Yeah.
every morning.
Yep.
And that first patch so a lot of people are interested in the patches, and people either love them or they hate them, right? So they always are asking us, where do we get those patches? Or, they're commenting about, oh, you shouldn't put that patch on a nice hat like that. So the first patches for the celebration of life, they were different. They were the square.
Well, the guys at the store kind of made their own patch, and then that's when I went to Susan. I said, "Hey, we need to standardize this. Just use one." And so because that was purple, ours were round and black, and it stood out a little bit better. We just did away with the purple one. But the guys at the store did their own at Best Hat.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, when did they come together as the American and Positive Times patch? The American patch has been around for a while, right?
Right.
It began life as that vintage patch that everybody wants right now, and you've moved to the new.
Yeah, it started, and Keith would put it on the side of the hat right above the buckle. But, I couldn't necessarily see it all the time. And so I added the flag, the American flag, to the back left-hand corner of the hat as because we're American Hat Company, and we're actually selling the national anthem, the opening prayer, respect for our military, respect for our first responders and young people. But I wanted the American flag on the hat somewhere, so that's what we did. And Keith okayed. He goes, "Yep, go ahead." He said, "But we're going to have some stores that maybe don't want it." I go, "I understand. If they're rooting for the Taliban or whatever, I get it." But so as it worked out, we did have a couple of stores that said, "No flags, no flags. We don't need flags," until the flag got so popular that they went to sell a hat, and they go, "Okay, there you go." And the guy goes, "Where's the flag?"
Right.
He said, "Well, we order them without flags." I don't want it. If it don't have a flag on it, I don't want it. Right. So they were calling me going, "Hey, we need flags." Well, and I didn't want them to mess it up and goop the glue or stick a flag on there or have the flag falling off. So, I made them hats with flags. So, but then they switched and now everything. And then Keith was the one who ended up, I said, everything right now, we're, 99% flag. There's only a couple small accounts that don't want the flag. He goes, "No, you can't buy a Dodge without the emblem on it. You can't buy Wrangler without the patch on it. Yes. You can't get Apple computer without it. You can't get an American hat without the flag." I said, "Okay, perfect." So that became the deal. And if somebody said, "I don't want the flags," we said, "Okay, no problem. Here's the number to somebody. You can get somebody else's hat." We're pretty adamant about that flag. So we moved the patch over above the flag, because there are times when the patch gets removed, and if the flag is still there, we wanted to associate the two things together, and then we just put Positive Times right next to that. We're not a big fan of anything in the front of the hat, even toothpicks. Oh.
Poor Connor.
I don't want to mention anybody's name.
Kind of discreetly.
That's a personal. That's just mine. I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you.
I mean, you were the one that gave me this.
Yeah. It goes in the back, not the front.
In all fairness, you did give it to me.
Yeah. And I'm just joking. You put it wherever you want to put it. There's a lot of people that have their toothpicks in the front.
He said he was going to patch up his hat, and I don't see any patches on it.
Haven't. Give me a patch.
Well,
I'll patch it right now.
I've got patches.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, so to patch or not to patch.
Right.
So I saw a post the other day. A guy had 6 or 7 hats, and they were all in his hat rack upside down. They all had patches, American hat, and Positive Times. And somebody said, "I hope they're paying you to, put that on there." I had to chime in. I couldn't help myself, and I said, "Well, you don't take the Wrangler off your jeans. You don't take the, get a crowbar and rip the ram off the front of your truck."
Right.
What the patch does is the patch tells everybody around you what you stand for, what you believe in. And we believe in the national anthem, the opening prayer, respect for our military, respect. So if your values align with our values, let me put those on for you.
Yes, I want to see that.
So if your values align with our values, then by all means wear it. It just tells everybody around you that you're patriotic and that you believe in the same things we believe in. And when I say that, I went to Patrick Gotch and said, if you will air the national anthem and the opening prayer in its entirety, we'll sponsor that. And so we sponsored that on 100 rodeos in 100 days, and we use it at the NFR. So it doesn't say anything. It just says the opening ceremonies or the opening prayer and national anthem brought to you by American Hat. Nothing about buy a hat, get a hat 20%, nothing like that. It's just who we are and what we believe in. So if you believe in the same things, then by all means do that. If you don't, it's not mandatory. If you don't want the patch on your hat, it doesn't hurt your hat. But if you, now, man, you look so much better.
Oh, Connor.
That's it.
That's
I
Connor.
knew he was going to do that. I seen it coming a mile away.
He's got it shown.
Yeah. So, long story short, the patches mean something, and it just like if a guy drives a Dodge truck or wears Wrangler jeans, it tells the rest of the world where you align. And the cowboy hat is that symbol of the great iconic American cowboy, and American Hat is not just selling hats. And I want those. So I got a little bit disturbed when I saw the athletes kneeling.
Right.
And so
I think we all did, I hope.
Yeah. And so, how do I combat that, or not combat it, but how do I tell other people we don't do that? And so the long and short of it is I want the young people to feel the same goosebumps and feeling I feel when the national anthem plays and you're at the Armed Forces Bowl and F-35s fly over. I hope you have the same goosebumps that I get. And I think that patriotism is something that's on a resurgence. I hear that recruiting is up significantly now in our military, but we need to be a patriotic country. We're not perfect by any means. I'm not saying that, but when things get ugly, who's the first one you call?
It's us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I believe in all those things, and if you believe in those things too, and you want to let the world know that your values and our values align, then wear the patches. If, like I said, if you're rooting for the other guys, then don't. It's up to you. Once you buy the hat, it's your hat.
That's right.
That's why we don't put them on at the factory. But I have a lot of retailers that have them, or they just don't do a good job of putting them on, or they want to charge for them.
Right.
And we've put a thing out that said, hey, Keith Maddox's memory is not for sale. So you can send us a self-addressed stamped envelope and we'll send you the patches for free.
So that's in my notes here to talk about a little bit. I want a couple of things there. First of all, on the American Hat Company enthusiast group on Facebook, it's in the rules, right? Nothing that is American branded is for sale, right? So no selling patches. So it's always, we've seen it, right, Connor? You've seen it on eBay. You see it everywhere. People selling
Sure.
these patches, and we really hate it. And we always have patches with us. So if we're out and about, we can give those out. And if people buy something from our website and they put a note in there, we send those, include those for free.
Right.
So, it's something we've been battling for a few years now as well. But always wondered why they didn't come on either the straws or um, they used to come in the boxes of felts.
Yeah, and then what we found was stores would go through the boxes and they'd take all the patches and then they'd try to sell them.
Yeah, 100%.
So that didn't work real good. And what we don't want to do is I don't want to put it on before the hat gets shaped,
Mhm.
because if you put that you're going to steam it off
Right.
on the hat ahead of time, and then it's harder. It's going to be hard. It's going to be in your way to shape it. So that's why we don't put them on from the factory, because 90% of what we ship from the factory is open and flat. It has to be shaped at the store.
And then there was always kind of a little form that you could on the website where you put your information in and you guys would send the patches out. But I talked to you guys and you were getting 30,000 a month.
Yes,
right?
It got to be. And when I looked at the postage on all that, and then on top of that, we'd send them, and then sometimes they'd come back because I don't know, they give us a bad address, or
Right.
I don't know, or the post office wasn't very efficient. But we'd send out 50 or 60 a day, and we'd get 10 back. And so I said, make them send us a self-addressed stamped envelope. Now they still don't do that. They still send us just an envelope with the name and but I'm sure that the younger generation doesn't understand, like I would,
Mhm.
what a self-addressed stamped envelope is for.
Right.
But if we get that, then they have their return. We'll still try to send them patches.
Okay. You might have just
But
opened
we
yourself
just,
up for
we just had to cut the postage way down.
Right.
We were spending thousands of dollars on postage trying to get hat stickers to people.
Right. Yeah. And I remember, it took, well, I guess, what has it been now? About 3 years ago, that's when it really got crazy. And, it was a couple months wait sometimes to get patches.
Yeah, well, we ordered them, and so we have a lot of inventory and patches, and we have a lady that that's her primary job.
Nice. So how many patches do you kind of go through on a regular basis? A lot?
Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. Yeah. And again, the patch can go on anything, especially the positive times patch. You can put that anywhere you want. I mean, that's it. We're not selling anything with positive times. Positive times is a thought process. And was Keith and Susan Maddox's thought process about life. And that's really what that is. And so when Keith died, then it became the North Star for the company. So anytime we're faced with a decision, there's the North Star, we're going to go that way. And so that becomes the basis for most decisions is, what's the positive things, and kind of, almost what would Keith do. And now he's been gone for, since 2019. So now it's, we're shifting gears a little bit. It's more what would Susan do, or how would Susan want us to do it? I used to think Keith, well, everybody wanted to sit at his table because I guarantee you that was going to be the most fun. And after he died, a couple of years later, I was watching at an event, and I went, "Ooh, I think maybe it was we want to sit at Susan's table because her table was having the most fun." So that's Susan's, the same way. And if you really want to have a good time, she knows how to have a great time. She knows how to laugh. Yeah.
It's funny, somebody was just on the American Hat Company Facebook group the other day, and he was out at a bar and he met Susan and they bought each other drinks,
Yeah.
and he posted a picture with her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. She's not afraid. She might be small, but she's mighty. and she's basically fearless. She's, if you think about it, you put yourself in her shoes. She lost her husband, and she's still a young woman. And she's got two businesses, that are generating millions of dollars a year. And, then COVID, and the government wants to shut your businesses down. I know that when we made the decision, Montague County made the decision that we were going to have to shut down for 30 days in March. And, I called her and I said, man, we got a lot of people here and I said, we're going to lose some people. They're not going to come back. They're going to go find other jobs. She said, oh, let's do this. Let's pay them. So literally when I made the announcement to the factory and said, hey, we're going to be shutting down for 30 days, I had some ladies there that began to cry. They gasped and they were crying. I go, hang on. I tell the rest of the story. I said, you're going to get a check every week. We're just going to send you a check. Susan made the decision to pay everybody. And I just said, the thing of it is we want you to come back. So it's not going to be mandatory. We're not going to make you do anything, but hopefully if you get another job in between here and there, you'll just call us and say, hey, don't send a check. But we had a lady there that was working for a local hairdresser, and the hairdresser had shut down before we did. And so she'd only been there for 2 weeks. So after that announcement, she came to me, she said, Mr. Mundy, does that mean me too? And I said, yeah, it means you too. And she said, I've only been here 2 weeks. I said, it doesn't matter. You're here now. And I said, we want you to come back. So when we were able to all come back, I thought we might lose her back to the hairdressing thing. And she said, nope, I'm coming back here. She said, you guys stood with me when I needed it. So she stayed there. So,
and
she's working there now.
it's funny because every time we go there and we talk mostly to Cody Bates, but to Mitch, and everybody there loves their job, right? They love it. They love working there.
That's the goal. That's the goal, is to make it a good place to work.
I remember Cody Bates told me a story about the shutdown when you guys were shut down, and he didn't have anything to do, so he thought he'd just go in and make hats. And he was there, and he was there probably half the day, and he came out and he met you, and he didn't realize you'd both been there the whole day and didn't know each other was there.
Yeah. We have 3 separate doors to get into the factory. There's a door that goes in the main office, customer service, and up front. There's a second door that goes right into accounting where the CFO is. And then I have a separate door that comes into my office. So what we all did was customer service. Marche came in pretty much every day to just answer phones and do whatever she could do. Sherry came in to make sure the bills were paid and keeping things up, make sure everybody got their check. And I came in, just to kind of be there and make sure that I was keeping up on my stuff. And then Cody would come in on his own. Well, we didn't go face to face. We'd talk on the phone because, the COVID, we were all concerned about what that meant. And that's how we operated for a month. Cody's out in the factory just kicking around. And then when we brought everybody back, we moved every one of the sewing stations 6 feet apart. So we had to go in there and move a bunch of equipment. And Cody and I just did that, on our own.
Right.
I remember all that, the shutdown. A couple of times Cody would call me, hey, are you busy today? Cody, you told me to stay home for a month. What do you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
Are you bored? I mean, I'm assuming you are if you're calling me. You feel like coming up here, we can do some cleaning or something? I'm on my way.
Yeah.
During COVID was the first time I'd ever seen you in short sleeve and shorts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still haven't really come to grips with that.
Still haven't got over that vision.
No, because it's not,
Yeah.
For 10 years now, this is what I've seen.
Yeah.
I'm not used to seeing you in anything but, the button down and the jeans.
Yeah. I even came casual tonight with the quarter zip for you.
Well, I appreciate that.
So let's go back to talk about patches real quick, because there are some rodeo stars who've been fined for wearing the patches, or Americans been fined. How does that work?
No, they find the athlete.
They find the
they do.
athlete?
So yeah, and it's not so much anymore. We had a situation at NFR where John Harrison, the barrel man, and during the 7th round of the NFR when it was here in Dallas, Dusty Tuckness called me and said, "Hey, they're making me take my patch off of my hat." I go, what? Because Dusty was he'd been with us for 7, 8 years, and always could wear the patch. And he's we have a list of 12 that we have 12 exemptions, meaning 12 guys that can wear our stuff in the arena. And he's on that list of 12. But when it came to NFR, ironically, PRCA, somebody, whatever, they had a obscure rule change, and they said, okay, well, he's a contract employee, so he can't wear the patch. So he was upset, and I said, just take it off. You're fine. Just take it off. Not a big deal. So the next year for NFR, and we did this on purpose, we made them patches the same size as the American hat patch. But with Dusty's, we put a Bible verse on it. And John Harrison, we put his daughter's name, who was deceased. So somebody, I don't know who, but the PRSA, John Harrison had that on his hat. They fined him $1,000. Well, obviously they didn't look at it very close.
Obviously.
And that didn't make the PRCA or whoever called on it look very good. And I just told John, I said, I'll be glad to pay the fine for you. Just take it off your hat. And he was upset that they made him take his daughter's name off the hat, and Dusty had to take his Bible verse off his hat. And it's just, it ends up being, kind of a silly thing. I mean, this is cowboy hats. I mean, it's not the, nuclear secrets or the cure for cancer. So people get a little worked up and a little too serious about that sort of stuff. And I just tell them, just take it off. Just take, don't.
Well, where's that all stem from, right? Because sponsorship, you can wear sponsorship on your rodeo vest, but you can't have it on your hat.
No, you can't. You can't wear it on your vest. You only get so many. The patch program, you only get so many spots.
Okay.
And they all have to be approved, and they can't be competing any other sponsors in the PRCA. So that limits you as a cowboy on what you can put on your shirt and how much money you can make.
Interesting.
So not a great deal, but it is what it is. So I don't worry about it. I don't really care.
Let's talk about hats. We've been talking for a while. We haven't talked about hats yet. And I forgot to ask you, inevitably somebody is going to ask later in the comments what hat you're wearing. And I thought it was a bone, but it's not, is it?
No, it's white. It's 1000X white.
I'm so used to seeing you in a bone.
I wear bone. I wear silver belly and white. White. Keith Maddox loved a white hat. So anytime I do anything that is kind of more high visibility in his honor, I wear a white hat. That's simple.
Well, I heard 1000X white, but you also wear 1000X bone.
Yep.
Those two are kind of off the menu for
Yep.
American,
Yep.
so to say, because they're not in the normal catalog of colors.
Right.
But people can order one.
Yeah, you can. It's a special order deal, but it's hard to stock a lot of those bodies. And I wear 1000X. You can't sell Cadillacs if you're driving a Kia.
That's right.
So, if I was paying full retail for a hat, I'd probably everyday hat would be a 500X.
I love the 500X. This is the 1000X. We did a video on this. I love this hat too, and this is the one I've been wearing probably the most this year. Love this hat, but I've got 2 500s and looking at a third. So,
And what I do with all my hats is I have my name embossed on one side, so it says made especially for Keith Mundy, and then the other side it has a grandkid's name. So I have 5 grandkids, so they all have their own hat.
That's
and
pretty
then,
cool.
Yeah, we sit and take family pictures with them and me wearing the hat that they'll eventually have when my ride here on the Earth's over, they'll have a hat and they'll have a bunch of pictures of me with them growing up. I mean, my youngest grandson, I have a picture of him sitting in his hat, me holding him and him sitting in the hat as a baby. So that he'll get that hat.
That's pretty cool.
When I die, yeah.
Tradition there.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, and then I have every felt hat I've ever owned, and they are all in boxes and nested, and then they have notes inside them, and they'll go to my daughters, and really the story of my life is in those hats on 3x5 cards.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, I have like the hat that I wore when I walked them down the aisle, or the hat that I wore when I met my grandkid for the first time, or the hat that I wore when, something, maybe even something bad happened.
So you'll take that and you'll put it in that box and it'll stay there.
Yeah, they'll get that hat with 3x5 cards tucked inside of it, and they'll know, oh, when he was wearing this hat's when this happened and that happened, and
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
And we've talked to Cody Bates about passing these generational, through the generations, passing these hats along and
Yeah.
having a legacy with them. So that really kind of expands on that.
It's a family heirloom, and so we had a thing in our catalog that said your hat's with you on the roughest of days. When the sun is beating on the back of your neck, the hat's there to protect you. Or when the rain wants to run down the back of your jacket, your hat's there to stop that. But then your hat gets to go with you on the best days. The day you meet your daughter or meet your grandkid for the first time, or walk your daughter down the aisle. And then your hat will hang silently on the wall in remembrance of you when you're done. So it means something. It stands for something. If I were to leave my kids, buckles that we've won at jackpot ropings or an old pair of boots, I don't think that means as much as the hat. And I use this phrase to an elementary school kid. If you walk through the front doors, the boots don't make you a cowboy. The jeans, the belt, the buckle, or the shirt. It's the hat that makes you a cowboy to that elementary school kid. So this hat is the symbol of the great iconic American cowboy. So if you get to wear a hat, by all means wear a hat.
That's pretty good.
Anybody has permission to wear a baseball cap. And anybody has permission to wear a cowboy hat. You don't have to live it. That's another thing that is a misnomer. And I saw a guy, he was talking about the Dale Brisby thing. You ain't no cowboy.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You're right. I am no cowboy, but I love it. But I didn't grow up there. I didn't grow up on a ranch. So it's not about your zip code. It's not about what you do for a living. It's about a state of mind and a state of your heart. So you don't have to live the lifestyle. You just have to love it."
Yeah, there's always that guy who's gonna say, "Oh, you're not a cowboy.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be wearing it." But I think absolutely, we see this expanding way into Michigan. We have people calling from Michigan,
Sure.
New York. It's all over. It's not just Texas, and it's not just cowboy.
Yeah, I had a guy at NFR that was looking at a 1000X hat, and he would walk up to the wall, and he was sharp dressed and tried it on a few times and left and came back, and his wife would never come close, which I thought was funny because he'd go back and talk to her, then he'd come talk to me, then he'd go back and talk to her. So I finally, usually that's the easiest hat. They usually walk up and go, "Hey, I want that hat, and I want it in this size, and I want that color." So I finally just asked him, I said, "Tell me what's holding you up. I'm trying to answer all your questions. Something's hanging you up." He said, "Be honest with you, I live in New York." And I said, "Okay, what does that have to do with it?" He said, "Well, these boots have never been on dirt." And I said, "Again, you're dressed right. You got the right stuff on. Man," I said, "if you lay your head on the pillow at night and you dream of big wide open spaces and bright blue skies and white puffy clouds, might be a cowboy in your heart." So doesn't matter what you do for a living or where you live.
Right. So let's talk about the new lineup for American Hat, because some things have changed, right? The 7X is now going away,
Right.
And the 20X is going away.
Yeah, gone.
Okay.
We didn't sell a lot of 20Xs because once I told you the price on a 20, or once you said, "Hey, I want to get a 20X," I said, "Okay, well, but for $40 more, you want to go a 40X?" Everybody jumped to a 40X. Nobody stayed wanting a 20 once they knew the whole story. And we did that on purpose. We wanted to sell 40s, not 20s. So long story short, 7X, we don't bring them to National Finals Rodeo. We let another dealer handle that. And we just went, it doesn't make any sense. So what we ended up doing, we did away with the 7X, but then we brought the price down a little bit on the 10X.
Okay. So what was, Connor, you'll know this, what was the retail on the 7X and the 10X?
7X is going to retail for about $470. The 10X is going to retail for about $490. So there's only a $20 difference.
Okay.
So it didn't make any sense for us. The time in the factory is very valuable, and it didn't make sense for us to have an artisan working on a 7X when he might as well just be working on a 10.
So what is the new price going to be for the 10X? Is it
$490?
$490. Okay. So it has changed already. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you're keeping the 20X Grizzly though, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's just one of those weird spot things. The Grizzly, Larry Mahan made it famous back in the
Yes.
day, and we don't sell a lot of those day to day, but when we come to NFR, we sell a lot of those.
Really?
Yeah, NFR we sell a bunch.
I was going to ask you what, because Connor, you see a lot of those going to California, right?
Oh, I'm not just California. I sell at least 2 or 3 grizzlies a day.
Is that right?
They're huge. People love them.
Yeah, and the weird thing about that Grizzly is that we had shipped one to Canada, and it didn't fit, and so they wanted to ship it back. So on the paperwork coming back in the United States, they want to know the contents, and they put Grizzly.
Oh no.
That's
yeah.
a big no-no.
So can you imagine? So now, for quite a while in Fish and Wildlife, we had to fill out all kinds of paperwork. It's not a Grizzly. It's just a fur felt hat that has, beaver in it that is left, the hair's left long. That's all it is. So we sell it less than a regular 20X because we don't have to sand it. We don't have to do all that stuff.
Right. A lot less work.
Yeah, a lot less work. That's why we sell it cheaper.
So you're going to keep the, I was kind of curious about this though. So the difference between the 100X and the 200X is not very, very far. Are we going to potentially see one of those two going away?
No, because the makeup of both of those hats is different. Where the 100X is all back hair, so it's heavier. It doesn't have the same feel. The 200X is a 50-50 blend of back and under fur or belly, and so it's the beginning of, okay, that's got a nicer feel. Not everybody can feel the difference, but I can sure feel the difference in them.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning of the under fur, and then the 500X is all belly.
Well, let's get into that whole blend then, since we're talking about it. If we're going to start with the 10X, that's all we have now, right?
Yeah.
So what is a 10X made of, and who's it made for? What's the difference, and who are these hats made for?
Okay, remember now the X thing is blown out of the water, so everybody has their own X scale.
Sure.
So a 10X American can be completely different than a 10X somebody else's hat. Ours is going to be 10% beaver, and then it's going to be 90% Argentina hair.
Okay.
So.
And that hat, I always say that's your entry level hat for somebody who maybe doesn't wear a hat a couple times a month.
Yeah, it's an entry level hat. If you want an American hat, that's kind of our entry level hat. There are other entry level hats that other companies make that are good hats too.
How will that hold up? Say on a day-to-day basis, is that hat going to hold up as well as maybe a 40X?
It depends on how you're going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
The better the hat, the more punishment it'll take. If I've heard this, if I could get a nickel for every time I've heard, oh, I'm rough on them. I wear them every day, and I'm out in the deal. Well, you're going to go through, all your life, you're going to wear a cheaper hat, and all your life, but if you wear a better hat, it will take more punishment. And it's just, I guess the best way to explain that is like the thread count on sheets. So I don't know if Lorena's ever schooled you on thread count.
Oh, no, I had schooled her.
The other way around, yeah.
I can't sleep on cheap sheets.
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, and so you go to Motel 6 and the sheets are a little scratchy, and then you go to, the Omni or somewhere nice, and those sheets are significantly different. And so it's like that. A wool hat is just scratchy, and it's the fibers are 18 to 25, and if they get wet, they're gonna sag.
Right. So no more 20. So what is a 20X? Is it still 20%
Yep.
beaver, the grizzly?
Yep.
Okay. How about the 40X?
40%.
And that's we
use Argentina hair as the other, so it's as opposed to a domestic or rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
We like hair better, HARE, and that's just through the fur supplier just thinks that the hair is a little better.
Okay. And the 100X, it came out during COVID or just before?
I don't remember exactly, but now we're selling predominantly 40s and 100s.
hmm
You know,
And we always say, if you can afford it, that 40X is the great entry level for if you want a hat that's going to last you
Sure,
forever,
sure.
because you guys can refurbish that.
Refurbish that, yeah.
Yeah. How's that look right now with everything that's going on in the factory and the ramped up production? Can you get those refurbished hats in?
You
Still?
can, but it takes a long time.
Really?
Yeah, it might take you 6-7 months to get it back. That's the
Okay.
bad part.
All right. Connor, his face over there.
He's got one in right
He's
now.
got one in right now.
I know right where it's at.
Good.
Yeah.
My 1000X that I have to get renovated once a year.
Yeah.
Talk about hard on hats.
Well, he sleeps in them. He takes a shower in them. You got to take your hat
mean,
off.
I mean,
You got to take
this
your hat
one,
off.
I've
Yeah.
barely worn it. And I'm already,
Yes.
Yeah,
I can't have nice things.
He goes through the knothole in them.
Yes. He's
I'm
a
a good
character.
test subject.
He
Yeah.
is.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. You should be our crash test dummy
I'm here for it.
on the hat business.
Sign me up.
We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. He is trying to get me in a.
I'm trying to bully you.
He's trying to bully me into wearing a 10X and putting it through its paces to see how long it will go before I have to reshape it. Right.
Yep.
That way I can report to these people
Sure.
who are watching and want to know exactly what the difference is between a 500X and a 10X.
Nothing wrong with doing that.
And I said, we should do one with Connor and we wear it all summer long and see exactly how he can destroy it and how long
Yeah.
it takes.
I mean, I'll do it. I have no problem doing that. I mean,
And it's funny because I've had guys call me and go, "Man, I have this 10X and it's taking a beating." And Jim Shockey,
Mhm.
Jim Shockey,
Yeah,
the hunter.
Canada. Yeah.
So he just did a video. His son did the video, and it's called Gone.
Mhm.
And it's really not about hunting at all. It's just about life and death. And it's a great video. And as he's walking through a meadow in the Pacific Northwest, and it's pouring down rain, he's got a big rain jacket on, but he's got a 10X American hat on, and it held up and looked great. But he's talking about we're all, because he lost his wife in 23 at 66
Right.
years old, but we're all going to be faced with deep sorrow at some point. Either we've already gone through it or we're still facing it. The loss of a spouse, the loss of a child, the loss of your grandparents. It's inevitable. You cannot get away from it. It's going to happen.
Mhm.
So we cannot let the deep sorrows of yesterday or tomorrow ruin the joy of today. That's what Jim Shockey. But as I watched that video and I'm thinking, man, that hat's, holding up pretty doggone good in the rain. Looks good. So, and then I sent him a thing and said, I really love the video. And, he wears 10X hats while he's hunting. And then he's got 1,000X that he wears at the shows.
Yeah, I saw him. He was taking some heat on Twitter a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And he had just a great comeback for that. So
What were we taking heat over?
he was taking heat over something. He was on a vacation in Cancun or something like that, and somebody was giving him crap for it, and he came back at hey, I'm still here and living my life. And it had something to do with it. I'll show you later.
He lost his wife,
Yeah.
and she was the love of his life and
Right.
his soulmate. And he says that he's walking through this meadow, and he said, "This is where I can see her again. This is where I can smell her. This is where I can talk to her." And so he's gone, went through some tough times there.
Right.
But he's now got a new gal, and my hat's off to him. His wife Louise wouldn't want him to be miserable.
Right.
But it seems like
People do.
people want you. People want to see you, sackcloth and ashes,
Yes, they
beating yourself because your wife passed. But like he said, him and Louise talked about it in depth, and she said, "No, you need to move on. You
Yeah,
got to go
people-
on. You can't. I don't want you to be miserable."
People are there to judge you and say you don't look miserable enough. Do it. Be miserable for another year.
And how long? What's the time frame? How long do you wait?
That's
I don't
right.
know. I don't know what it is.
I
For
don't
one
know.
person, it's one thing. For another
Connor
person,
does.
it'd be different. Yeah.
Connor's got that slide rule with the the
Yeah.
calculations on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different for everybody, like you say.
It is
I mean,
different. Yeah.
I don't think there's a chart. There should be. Somebody should come up with a chart where you can just go over, down.
We're gonna
That's how
task
long.
you. We're gonna task you with that.
Yeah. My father died in 1979. He was 47 years old. And, so here in February, it was the 45th anniversary of losing our dad. And I talked to my brother who lives in the state of Washington. And he both got a little choked up just talking on the phone. And so 45 years, we've learned to live with it, but to say we haven't gotten over it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never get over it, but you'll learn to live with it. You'll learn to go on.
Right. We're getting heavy here.
Easy to do.
Back to the hats though, because we're running into it. So 100X hat, it's here to stay.
Yep.
200X,
Yep.
500X.
Yep.
So they're all three an all beaver product.
Yep.
Can you explain the difference between those though? You did a little bit.
So there's back hair on a beaver, which is the guard hair, which is the thicker, coarser hair, heavier hair. And then there's under fur or belly hair. And so even if you almost brought my dog, you said, were your dog friendly, but I didn't. I assumed
I was hoping to see Pearl again.
Well, I envisioned, cords and, tripods, and I thought, well, that may not be a good idea. But when you look at her fur, you can pull her fur apart and you see this white under fur. That's what keeps the beaver warm, right? And dry. So that under fur is what is the real fine stuff. And it costs more money, and so it's also referred to as belly hair. So Keith Maddox, I think, was one of the first ones that when he was blending hair, he said, okay, what can I add? What can make it better? And when they got to the 1000X, or he was making a pure belly beaver hair, and he said, what can I add to this to make it better? And he thought, well, chinchilla? And the guy goes, no, not really chinchilla. He says, mink, but it's just way too expensive. He said, that's what I want. I want mink. And so that's how we come up with a mink.
So 500X is all belly hair, and the mink is belly and mink.
Yeah. And if you ask me how much mink, I do not know. Mink is a real small pelt, but you can feel the difference.
Yeah.
It's just gives you a little more luxurious feel.
Absolutely. And if you guys haven't seen the video on this hat, this is the 1000X Natural mink from American Hat. We did a video on this. You get to see the entire process from picking out the body until it's actually shaped. So if you want to see that, go check it out. It's on our YouTube. It's a great video, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So I lost my notes here. We got talking and
you want to talk about straw hats?
Yeah, let's talk about straw hat. That's right. Thank you. Are you reading over my shoulder?
Nope.
Because you guys have 4 new straws this year.
Right. I got 3 on a flyer that we're gonna, because we don't always do a new catalog every year, because we may only add 1 or 2 things. So we use flyers to do that because the catalogs are so expensive.
Sure.
But the big difference in an American hat and anybody else's hat is the petroleum lacquer.
Right.
So we dip the hat in a vat of lacquer when the edges are still long. And then it goes into an oven for 2 hours, minimum of 2 hours. If it's above 55% humidity, it'll be in there for 4 hours. So we let it dry, come out, then the brim gets cut down and the wire gets sewn into it. And then it turns around and comes back to the lacquer room for another dip in the lacquer and another 2 to 4 hours of drying. So if, like you guys filmed making of a 1000X, we could do a 1000X over several hours. But if you were to walk in the factory in the morning and say, I want a straw hat, you've got 4 to 6 hours of just drying time. So it takes a long time to get a straw hat through there as well.
Right.
But the nice thing about it is that petroleum lacquer, when you steam it, it gets very pliable. So you can shape it and be very intricate on the shaping. You can put hearts and stuff on the side, or whatever you want. But then when it cools, it holds its shape. And then if you get caught in the rain, you're not going to lose your hat. Now, let me qualify that by saying if you have vents in the hat all the way around, fancy vents, I've had my head still gets wet because it'll run through those vents.
Right.
But the vents are there to cool you in the summertime too. So, but I didn't lose my hat. My hat wasn't ruined. I've had a straw hat. Well, Keith Maddox had a situation on him and I go on the Rancheros ride, but he had a situation where they were crossing a stream and a guy lost his hat in the stream and it had tumbled down the stream and was in a little hole.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy goes, I can see my hat down there. And Keith goes, well, go get it. It's still probably good. Well, the guy stripped down to his underwear and dove in there and got it and came up and wore the hat the rest of the ride and was amazed that it was still good. So,
yeah, I've never even thought about not wearing an American straw in the rain. I just, yeah,
that's what it's for. Okay.
Right.
The cowboy hat's there to protect you.
Yeah.
And that even the nicer, beaver hats,
right.
they're going to hold up in the rain. I mean, people are always amazed if I have a 1000X hat on, it's raining. They go, oh, you're going to go outside in the hat? I go, yeah, that's what the hat's made for.
We get that. We get those kind of questions all the time. Hey,
Yeah.
should we spray this with some kind of protectant?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't spray anything on my hat.
We don't either. We kind of tell them just wear it.
Where?
I think Connor says that spray is for wool hats, right?
Yeah, I usually would recommend that Thompson's water seal on your wools or your hats that can't handle the weather.
Or your patio deck.
Yeah.
But I mean, think about it. The logic I use with a customer is, you ever seen a beaver that can't get wet?
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yes, true enough.
Yeah.
But American doesn't do many new products, right? So you don't have new products every year, but you do have 4 new or 3 new straws this year.
We have 4,
4.
but 3 are available right now or
Uh-huh.
going to be available in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
The 4th one is lagging. It's a little more intricate weave and they run into some challenges weaving
Okay.
it. So we'll get it, but we'll get it later.
Yeah, we were at Joby's this week and I was looking for it. He said he only had the 3, so
Yeah.
I was curious about that.
Yeah.
He's watching, by the way.
Hey, Joby. Thanks
Yeah.
for watching, buddy.
What a great guy.
Yeah, love him.
Well, you know his story, don't you?
Yeah, we've had him on the podcast. He's been on here twice.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a great
First
story.
time I met him was at high school finals, and he was working for Boot Barn in Burleson, and he had the store was calling, when are you going to be back here? Because they had customers waiting to buy hats until Joby was there.
Yes.
And I said, man, why don't you do your own thing here? And so he kind of started his own thing, and he's been wildly successful.
Yes, he has. I just opened that 2nd new store, and he's got a 3rd one coming next year.
Yep.
So
Great
yeah.
guy.
And we wish him all the best in
Yeah.
it too, because
Yeah, absolutely.
he's killing it. The most recent hats, I guess the newest hats before those straws were the evergreen and the grenadine.
Right.
And those are a little different than the normal hat line, right?
Yeah.
So the normal hat line, they're pretty much I don't want to say primary colors, but they're neutral colors.
Yes.
And then you have one of my favorites is the evergreen, and I love the story behind it. Lorena has the grenadine, and she loves that hat. It's a beautiful hat.
Yeah.
I wish they came in higher X's. Why? I guess I have 2 questions. Can you tell us the story behind the evergreen and the grenadine, and why are they only available up to 40X?
So the evergreen, I have some great friends that are now they own a company called Horse Soldier Bourbon.
Yes.
But if you've ever seen the movie 12 Strong, it is this true story of the first 12 men in Afghanistan. I mean, they went in and rendezvoused with General Dostrom and called in airstrikes, and they actually attacked the town of Mazar Sharif with like 1,000 men on horseback and 1,200 men on foot.
I think I read the book.
Yeah.
I think I read the book.
Lightning, Streaks of Lightning, or I'm trying to remember. It's Lightning something, but great book.
Yeah.
By Mark Nutch. Anyway, the long and short of that is they had given me a Green Beret, and so that was the inspiration for the color. So on the grenadine, Jackie Crawford wanted something a little more feminine, but yet we wanted to make it so a guy would buy it as well, and so that's the grenadine. Yeah. So,
Just trying to hand it to Connor. Dance monkey.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's a cool color.
It is. It's a
cool
great color.
but it's a cool story, and those guys are true American heroes. So I'm actually going to go to an event next Saturday with big country veterans, and the horse soldier guys will be there. So they are real American heroes. That'll look good on Connor.
It does not.
I
Yeah.
have to disagree.
It's one of my favorite hats. I love the color, and I wear it a lot. I wish it came in a higher X.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't do that as a general rule because the volume is going to be right here. Now, if the volume took off such that we're having a hard time keeping up with it, and we had a lot of requests to go to another, but the higher X hats, the more expensive hats, are predominantly going to be in traditional colors.
Right.
They're not going to be in something that is fashion, what I'll call fashion color. Fashion is fickle, and especially women's fashion. It's like a bottle rocket, goes straight up, comes straight back down on top of you when you're not looking. So we want to stay with the timeless, classic colors.
So it's just not cost effective to order these in higher X bodies.
No. In order to, we have the highest body cost, so we spend more per body than anybody.
Really?
Yeah. So there's one outfit that buys a little bit more bodies than we do, but we spend more money because of the bodies that we do get. So, and that was Keith Maddox who had the bodies blended. I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody's hat company. If you got a hat, you're good with me. I don't pick my friends by the hat they wear. I really don't. I mean, I've had good friends come to me and say, "Well, I'm not wearing your hat." I go, "Don't worry."
At least you're wearing one, right?
Yeah. When you know better, you'll do better. But don't worry about it. Not everybody can swing one of these. But jokingly, tongue in cheek.
Right,
I don't mean that in a bad way. So I don't mean that arrogantly. Let's put it that way.
Well, we have a lot of viewers who say I don't have an American hat yet, but I'm saving up for it. Right. So
I appreciate that.
Or I just got my first American. All I could afford was a straw.
Yeah.
But I'm saving.
I'm
for
fine with that.
felt.
Yeah. It's not for everybody.
No. And some people wear. I got a buddy who wears a Stetson because his grandpa wore a Stetson.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's I've been trying to tell him, but you can't.
No.
You can't argue with.
No.
Heritage and history.
Yeah. Stetson's a great name,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, Stan came from Stetson, right? So you pull there.
Yeah, well, he retired. He said, I just got tired of people coming to me and handing me hats. Go, how come you can't make one like that? He said, I can, but I can't make that many.
Right.
And that's the problem. We can't. We don't make as many hats as they do. They make a lot more hats than we make.
Yeah.
And the market couldn't survive without them.
I mean, I don't think you can go into any Western. I don't think you can call yourself a Western store if you don't have, Stetson in there, right? Because it's there everywhere, and it's iconic, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like Kleenex. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Huh. So, what's next? Are there any new hats coming? Anything you can? I saw. Speaking of Stan, that he wrote there are some new grizzly colors coming. Can you talk about those?
Well, we have a different supplier for some of those, and so we've had them get us some colors. And so, yes, we have some new colors coming. I don't really want to talk about them quite yet until we're got it fully fleshed out. Until we got to make them first and see what they look like and feel like, and make sure it's what we want.
Okay.
So they're still going through the quality test.
When are we looking at maybe Wessa time frame in August? We'll see them.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And
we have them now. We're just making sure that they're going to hold up.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So I can't wait to see those. Look at Connor's face. He's like, oh, interesting. He can't.
Colorblind is not going to make much of a difference to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
What color? What shade of dark is it?
Yeah. What shade of gray are we looking at?
Oh, that scared me. It's so loud.
Gotcha.
She's over there all quiet, and then all of a sudden, bam, hit you with it.
Throw on some sound effects.
Yeah. Usually it's Connor saying, "I hate it here." There he is. So we kind of touched on this earlier about Taylor Sheridan and kind of this new Western boom, because you had, and it's kind of cyclic, right? Because you had the early '80s urban cowboy, and then you had 8 Seconds and Pure Country in the early '90s.
Yep.
And that kind of brought that all back again. And then now Taylor Sheridan has a bunch of shows out that are kind of really pushing this. But the first one was Yellowstone, right?
Yeah, Taylor Sheridan is an anomaly. I mean, he is probably one of the best storytellers I've ever been across. I mean, I have no idea how the guy puts out so much stuff
Yeah.
and still has time for, he works with the Cowboys on the 4-6s. He's, spend time at his arena on the back of a cutting horse. So he is the real deal. He's as authentic as it comes, and he is a great, great, great storyteller. And the urban cowboy thing was the bigger boom than Tombstone or Pure Country or those things. But the Taylor Sheridan thing has been long lasting.
Yes.
Whereas Urban Cowboy was one movie and it lasted for a shorter period of time. Whereas the Yellowstone, 1883, 1923, all of those things just.
Now he's got Landman. That's kind of.
Landman's phenomenal
Yeah.
as well. And so, he's done more for I mean, I was sad when Yellowstone was over, but now, I hear he's working on something new. So,
Yeah. And I was kind of worried, what would that do? Yellowstone ending, what would that do to the boom? You think it's.
no, I don't think it's going to. Right now, I haven't seen anything dip.
Yeah.
We're still going strong. I mean,
Well,
make as many hats as we can make a day and not sacrifice any quality.
and it took you guys a long time to get to where you could service your customers, being the retail stores, right? There was a long wait
And
in the beginning.
we're still not getting them all. I mean, we're still falling behind. We have to prioritize, and and the sad part is the strong are getting stronger and the weak are getting weaker.
Yeah.
And that's almost goes back to the Jim Shockey video of Gone. It's just the natural cycle of things, and I can't fix that. I wish I could, but I can't. And I can only make so many hats, and I got to pick and choose where those go.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. So, we have people all the time asking, well, who's got a hat? Who's got this hat? Who's got that hat? Can you tell them what are your maybe top 5 to 10 volume dealers,
Sure.
so that they know, and they're always asking where to get the patches too. So these high volume dealers should
Yep.
have those patches as well.
Best hats, number one, by far. Joby's, NRS, Cavenders. Those are going to be your top dealers. There's Heads or Tails, West Trans in Montana. So one of the things we've focused on, if you're a hat only store, we try and take care of you. If you're hats and you've got 5 or 6 different other brands, then you're not a priority. You can't be a priority. We just can't keep you in hats. For instance, I had somebody that was upset with me at NFR a couple of years ago and said, "How come they have hats? I was working for Best Hat." Those are 2 separate businesses. So American Hat is one business, Best Hat's another one. Best Hat pays the same price that everybody else pays. Best Hat has to place their orders in time to get the hats. But I finally had to say, if you can do 3 things for me, then you too can have hats. You know, you got to be American only. That's what Best Hat is. You got to pay me every week. That's what Best Hat does. And you got to buy at least $5 million worth of hats, and then you too can have hats.
So,
But it's not because Susan owns American and owns Best. It's not that. If you were in my shoes, if Connor owned Best Hat, and they did the volume that they do, I would still be making sure that they had hats.
right.
That store sells more cowboy hats than any store in the world.
They, their volume is pretty high. And
It's
Joby
crazy.
does a high volume too.
He does, yeah.
Lorena, can you hit that monitor before it goes off, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, wait for that monitor to get fixed there. I lost track of where
I
was
didn't
going with
realize
that.
you were that technical, and this is pretty impressive here. You're just like this kind of like a nerd shop, man. You got all the right stuff.
I think it has to do with my quality problem.
Quality snob.
What is it?
Quality snob.
Connor calls me the quality snob because I wear high quality hats.
Yeah.
But I also want to give the viewers a quality experience.
Agreed. Yeah,
right?
agreed.
So I want them to be able to hear us, and I want it to sound good, and I want us to look good.
Yep.
And I want them to get different angles, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to give them a good quality
You
experience.
guys do a great job.
Thank
Do a
you.
great job.
Thank you.
But then I lose track sometimes. That's what happens when you're on live TV.
That's
It's okay.
usually it's my fault. He loses track.
It is, but I got kind of involved in sidetracked.
Well.
That's what happens.
Normally, I'm just here to derail the situation.
That's what Connor does. That's what we call him. And I told him he was so nervous about you being here. And he said he was just going to sit there all night. And I said we're going to give him questions for you. And we didn't get around to it because we just had our school last week. And
I tease him a lot, but I am very, very proud of Connor. I mean, we had an ag teacher call us from Bowie High School, said, I got a kid here that, man, if he's got some time after school, if we don't keep him busy, we're afraid what he might get into. So we hired him at the factory, and just he learned how to shape. But he did all kinds of things. He just didn't shape. In the beginning, he did everything.
Yeah.
From loading trucks to unloading trucks to every part of the hat business. And so, but he really thrived at shaping. He can shape a hat.
he's very good. I'll tell you what, he's really even better than being a hat shaper, even better than a hat shaper. He's very good at explaining how to shape hats to somebody.
Yeah.
He's a very good instructor.
I agree.
And it's the kind of the way he shapes, not the specifically straws, right? So the way he shapes straws is completely different. He learned that at American because you have to have speed because
Yes.
you have to get a lot of hats out because 99 to 100% of those hats that go through American, they get touched by a human shaper, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Even
if it's a shaped
just
hat, it does. Yeah.
even if it's just a flanger, right?
Yeah.
So
Even if it's a rancher crease,
yeah,
they get touched up.
yeah. So a lot of people don't know that. I've got a lot more questions here, but we are getting close to about an hour and a half in here. So I thought maybe we'll take some questions from viewers.
Yes, well, we got a couple of questions from people because we announced you'd be here weeks prior to the show. So we have one here. He says, "Howdy, my name's Ryan Reuters. My question for Mr. Mundy is, what is your favorite hat as far as color, quality, brim, size, and shape? Thank you for making a quality product in a world full of throwaway items."
Oh, wow. Nice question. Well, I'm going to say white because that is the color I wear in honor of Keith Maddox. I wear a 4.5-inch brim. I like to wear the 1000X. It doesn't cost that much more to go to first class. And then I kind of go with a modified minic is what I'd call it. And I just didn't want to have the straight up cattleman crease like everybody else did. So it has the little dimples on the side. And that's kind of where I go.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Who shapes your hats?
Cody Bates.
Cody Bates. Always Cody Bates.
Predominantly Cody Bates, yeah.
Right.
Connor used to do them when he was there, but Cody Bates.
All right, we're gonna have to get Cody in here to do us a hat.
He makes it look easy. He just does it really, really super fast. And I keep telling him, man, you got to put more into it. It's like Danny. Danny is a little bit of a showman at the store.
Sure.
I'll never ever forget when I first met Danny. I brought a customer to him at NFR, and the guy he would show up first thing in the show, and he'd buy a 1000X hat. So I take him over to Danny, and Danny had been working for us at the store, so I knew he was a great hat shaper. Anyway, and so I introduced him and shaped this guy's 1000X hat. And the guy goes, "How long have you been shaping hats?" And then he goes, "Well, 13 more days, it'll be 2 weeks." So, and we laughed. So he knows he's got the gift of gab. He's a great hat shaper, but he's also a great personality.
Yeah, we just saw Danny. What was it on Wednesday? Tuesday. So he might be watching.
Yeah, I love the guy. And I used to tease him about his mustache. I said, "Man, you must have lost a bet or something." But it's just, I'm just jealous. He's got a great mustache.
Yeah.
All them guys do.
They all do. Yeah.
I think it's a prerequit for working at Best.
And Keith Maddox wasn't a fan of facial hair at all.
Right.
Did not like it. Now they all got him. Yeah. It's okay.
All right.
That's all right.
So this next question is from Jeff Bukowski. He says, "Hello, I find the buckle on the hatband on the 100X American Hat Company hat not quite as nice as the other hats, including the 10X or 40X. Any plans to change it?"
Not at the moment, but I'm going to go back now tomorrow and I'll look at it. And we'll evaluate that. I haven't heard that before. I know that buckle costs more than the buckle on a 10X or a 40X. So I'll go back and look at it.
It's funny because we have a guy who's a moderator in the American Hat Company Facebook group, and that's his favorite buckle, right? The 100X. I think he said he wanted to get that buckle on like a 200X or a 500X, but that's his favorite. So.
Yeah, and everybody has different.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's not for everybody.
My favorite is the 500X buckle.
Yeah, me too. I like that one.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
And the 200X is exactly the same. The 500 just adds a little bit of gold.
Yeah.
What will be the most popular American Hat Company Cowboy Hat X rating worn by working or rodeo cowboys?
I'm going to say 40X still. The 40X is kind of our everyday driver, a great durable hat at an affordable price. But we're kind of making a shift towards the 100X. So I'm seeing more the volume on the 100X keeps ticking up.
Jerry Gazelle was here, and he wears a 100X 5-inch brim.
Yeah.
And we saw him in stockyards a couple months ago. He just got another one, so he loves that 100X, and he wears it. He will abuse it, right?
But that's what it's for.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about him. Yep.
He was here and he did the podcast, and he said he had a 100X and it went through a tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Came out just fine.
Yeah.
And the last question is from Roger, who asks, "What does it mean to have a hat drummed when it's made? I'm between a size 6 and 7/8 and a 7, and was told I should order a 7 and have the sweatband drummed when y'all make it. We took the factory tour last week and met so many wonderful folks. Thanks for offering that."
That's where he heard it.
What's that?
I said we were wondering where he heard the term, but that's where he heard it.
He took the factory tour.
Yeah, it's where it's the sweatband is hung basically inside. The sweatband's a little bit smaller than the hat itself. So if you were to look at it, it's like the skin on a drum. So it's just made a little bit smaller. So the hat band is going to fit you, but there may be a little space between it. I mean, I'm just talking negligible. Typically, we use 2-inch wide masking tape on the seam. So you roll your sweatband down, and then you put 2-inch wide masking tape on the seam. That I haven't really found anybody that I couldn't get fit right with that. we have conformers and we can do the whole thing and put you in a chair and da 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 da. But when you conform it, then it's exactly fits exactly to your head. Then when you shape it, or it gets hot, or something changes, now as a general rule, those people go, my hat's too tight. So I would rather be a titch big and put some tape in it and wear the tape in it. If you wear it every day, I wear my hat every day. So I'd wear it 2 weeks like that. And then finally, about 2 weeks later, I end up taking a piece of tape out.
Well, I'm right in between an eighth and a quarter. And this 1000X, it was taped for the first month or two.
Yeah.
Right. And then it'll conform to your head and shrink.
It comes back to you. Yeah.
Take it out.
They get smaller. They don't get bigger.
That's right.
Yeah. Everybody says, well, I mean, I had a guy that came to me at NFR and he wanted to buy a hat that was 2 sizes too small. When he put it on his head, it changed the brim was cattywampus. I said, we can't even get that shaped. Let me, so I'd fit him in the right size and da da da. He goes, nope. He said, I want that. I go, here's the deal. I said, I would just as soon not sell you a hat than to sell you one 2 sizes too small. So I'd rather just, you can walk away or whatever, but I still want to sell it to you because you're not going to be happy with it. You're not going to be a good advertisement for me. Every time you take your hat off, you're going to have a big red mark on your forehead. Let's just agree to disagree and, you do what you want to do, but not in this hat. And the guy goes, no, I want an American hat. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You buy the hat that I'm telling you to buy, the size that, we'll get it fixed for you. And you can wear it. How long are you going to be here? And he said, I'm here for the whole time. I said, you can wear it. And I said, on the last day of NFR, if it doesn't fit you, if it's not the most comfortable hat you've ever had, bring it back and I'll give you your money back or I'll give you something else. And he goes, oh man, I don't know. And I go, so I kept going back and forth and he, and finally I said, what do you do for a living? He goes, I'm a fireman. I said, okay. So I thought about it for a second. Okay. So I said, let's, I'm with you. And we pull up on an electrical fire and I say, spray water on it. Would you do it? He goes, well, hell no. And I said, your hat's too tight. This is what I do for a living. Your hat's too tight.
Yeah.
So he come back the last day and I thought, oh, here we go. We're going to have to go round and round on this deal. He come back and he said, I got to tell you, he said, this is the most comfortable hat I've ever had in my life. Thank you for not selling me one 2 sizes too small. And I love it. And, so.
Did you ever find out why he wanted it 2 sizes?
He just felt like it needed to be tight. He didn't want to come off his head.
Okay.
And so my hat's not tight on my head at all.
Right.
It's not biting me anywhere. But if I have to get in it all the way, I shape it in such a way, or I have it shaped where it's now hitting my head. It's on top of my ears, on top of my eyebrows, but won't come off my head.
Right.
Now, where your hair is in the back, it will. The only thing to hold your hat on your head is that sweatband. So, if you don't have that sweatband up against your forehead, then yeah, it's gonna, it comes off. But you just learn to play the wind.
Right. Do you have any questions from current watchers?
I do, from one of our members, Rich Swick, who asks, what brand of boots is Keith wearing tonight?
These are Rio Sub-Mercedes, and they actually have a Positive Times logo.
Oh, really?
On the tops, yeah.
All right. I'm guessing you know a guy over at Rios.
Yeah.
Get that number.
Yeah. Yeah, they're it's hard to get them to make. They're like us. They're swamped.
Yeah.
And they don't want to stop to make like a one-off pair of boots.
Right.
So I order them typically in January. I order 2 or 3 pair, and I might get them October of.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
It takes a long time.
It's been.
But they're and then I've just got some Watson boots. Randy Watson boots, and those are very comfortable.
You like those?
I do. They're they're a great boot. Fenolio is a great boot. So there's a lot of good boots out there. These just happen to be Rios tonight.
Yeah. Rios is a great boot.
Yep.
I don't own a pair yet, but I wear these are my Fenolios. I wear these all the time.
Fenolio makes a really good boot.
Yes, they do.
I have another question, and this comes from Ruben Rosas, who was in our hat shaping school this week. He says, Joe made me a quality snob. And any thoughts on a first responder fire department or police department like the Texas Ranger Edition?
Yes. My other hat that I had a choice of wearing tonight was a Texas Ranger Edition hat that has a Texas Ranger buckle on it and all that. But those are gone now. Those were only made for the bicentennial year, and they went to a few dealers. But so that's that. And then on the law enforcement deal, if law enforcement, you can't just order them over the phone. But if law enforcement comes to the factory, we typically will figure out a way to fit them in a hat. So,
All right.
but you got to show up there. You can't just call it in.
Okay. And Daniel Hernandez asks, will American Hat be opening any new retailers in the near future?
No. We have 700 stores on a waiting list and we can't get to them. So it's a challenge. We're going to, the big guys, like I said, the guys, Best Hat, Joby's, NRS, Cavender's, they're getting stronger and bigger. Cavender's is growing their business substantially with us. So those guys take up pretty much all of our production. The hat store in Houston. There's a lot of great dealers up there. Oh, Emilio's.
Double R.
A double R.
Yeah.
That's a great now. So he's a hat only store. So we're going to make sure he gets hats. So, but again, if you're Joe's Hats, Hair Care, and Tire Products in Petaluma, California, you're probably not going to get hats.
Probably not.
Fortunately.
And they want to know if every store that carries American hats have patches.
They should. They can. They can order them from us, or they can call us and say send me free patches. But not all of them go the extra mile and put them on. And so that also is a determining factor of, again, if we have a consistent place that doesn't order patches, doesn't put patches on, then you kind of fall lower on the chart of when you're going to get hats.
Okay. R.J. Johnson asks, does the American size 7 felt fit the same as size 7 straw?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Use the same hat blocks for both.
So what Ruben meant was a special edition type. Like,
he was looking for a fire department special edition.
Yeah, we don't have a fire department special edition. I'm sorry. We're not against that. We did some hats for Folds of Honor.
We have one over there.
Yep, and I have one. I put the Folds of Honor flag on the back of my hat. Mm-hmm. But we don't have a fire department hat, and I don't have a police department specific hat. Although we do make hats for the Fort Worth Police Department. Several police. Sanger. There's a bunch of them. I can't even name them all.
What does American Hat Company do that makes the long oval fit my head super great? Trying on an American Hat Company hat was the best experience I've had, says Juno.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. And our hat blocks are specific to American hats. So if you were to buy somebody else's hat and think that you're going to be the same in our hat, they're different. And I often tell people, when you're fitting something on your head, there's very small tolerances. And I often say that, an eighth of an inch isn't a big deal till it's on the edge of your hat, at the end of your nose. Then it starts to add up really quick.
Yes, I've heard you say that before. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of great stories and a lot of cool sayings.
It just comes with the territory, I
guess. Do you wear felt year-round?
Yes. So if I were to go out somewhere at night, I would definitely wear a felt hat. If I'm wearing a sport coat, I would definitely wear a felt hat. I will never wear a sport coat and a straw hat. That is a faux pas for me that I can't bring myself to do it.
Di asks, hello, Mr. Mundy. How do I know when it's time to toss a straw hat and get a new one?
Well, it's personal preference. When it starts to get soft or when it starts to smell because you've been sweating in it. We do have a story of a couple that he had a palm leaf hat, and that's the reason we don't do palm. Is they're hot, they're heavy, and they smell really bad. But he come home and I was having supper with his wife, and she said, "Honey, you're gonna have to check underneath the cabinet here because something's got in there and died." And they pulled everything out and looked at it and couldn't find it and whatever. And next day he goes to work and she says, "Well, we must have found it because it don't smell now. It's pretty good now." Well, he come home that next night and she goes, "Oh, there it is again. I don't know what that is." Well, they traced it back to his hat.
Wow.
So, after you've sweated in the hat, especially if it's got a Drylex hat band in it, there's a time to say goodbye to an old friend. So you got to make that call, not me.
Emilio Segura asks, what are your thoughts on the 20X Belgian belly?
It's a cool hat. I mean, it's a unique color. It's a cool hat. It's not something that I particularly would wear just because I'm not very fashion forward. But I often tell people it's a cool hat because you don't have to comb your hair. You just got to comb your hat. Just wake up in the morning, put that thing on, and off you go.
We're not going to see you in a tall crown.
No, probably not.
Grizzly.
Probably not. No, probably not.
Short brim.
No.
What do you call those, Connor?
Yeah.
Cali boy style.
Yeah.
Cali boy and Brisbee style.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about old Dale? He wears those.
That guy is a phenomenon.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening? He came to the factory, and I had a bunch of old bodies that we didn't have a home for. And I said, "Hey, Dale, what about wearing one of these?" And he's like, "I don't think so. I don't." And anyway, we started doing them. We posted them on we made him like 4 styles, and he put them on his website. And I was in California on the Rancheros ride, and I get a call, and one of the gals at the office said, "We got a problem." I said, "What's up?" She said, "Dale Brisby just opened up his website and sold like 643 hats." I said, "Whoa, okay." And she said, "We didn't even have them out of containers yet." And I said, "Well, that's what we do. We make hats for a living, so it's not a problem. That's a good thing." So I said, "Have somebody go out there and pull them out of the container and get them in production."
I remember that day because I was one of the guys that got sent out there.
Were you?
Yeah. But if you think about what he's done from a branding perspective, is nothing short of genius. And the moon and the stars and the sun have to align. There'll never be another guy like Dale Brisby. He's one of a kind.
He truly is. And Cody McDowell on Facebook says, great show. Very fun to hear his story. Love what you're doing for the Western heritage, but yet inspiring the world. You can just wear a hat regardless. The hat is the masterpiece of every outfit.
Yeah, good. I like that. Yeah, ask him when he wants to have dinner. We'll meet and have some dinner.
Yeah.
Sound like a guy I'd like.
We have Ryan Stevens says, I'm curious how many hats a year they can make at the current quality.
About 50,000 felts and 110,000 straws is kind of capacity for us right now. But now we're adding a building to the factory, so we've got a 8,000 square foot building that we're working on to go in the back of the factory, which will allow us to streamline. And then one of the challenges we have is we're making hats all year long for NFR. So we got to make about 39 felt hats every day to keep up with the demand for all of the retailers at NFR.
Right. So that doesn't even include everything else.
Yeah, so I'm making hats that I'm not going to get paid on until November, but I got to have a place to put them. And so those get palletized and shrink wrapped, and so they end up taking up a lot of space. So
is there any have you guys thought about expanding the factory itself?
Yes, and so what'll happen is I have some hats on racks in the factory. Mm-hmm. Those will all go out and go into the new building, and I can expand the sewing floor. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can go to a split shift in the back and have them. So the back of the factory where everything starts, for the lack of a better term, is like the drummer in the band. So they're whatever pace they're at, the rest of the factory's at that same pace. If they can go faster or they can make more and stack them up behind the sewers, then we can get more out. So we already have the felt crews working till 6 o'clock every night. And then we're working on maybe a little shift that'll go till 8 or 9 every night.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we're trying.
So, well, I mean that'll be interesting because if you have 700 people on a wait list already, maybe that means we could eventually see some of those get opened up. No? Okay.
No, I don't think so. I think that's a tall tale. I think the big guys are going to get bigger. Like right now, between the people that I've already named, they can take up 70 or 80% of our production.
True.
So
Fair enough.
it doesn't make sense necessarily. If you want an American hat, there's some big dealers that have it all. The reason we don't sell like to Boot Barn as an example, they have a bunch of stores. I mean, they're 100 at one point they had 200 stores. But of the 200, they don't carry full size one or full selection.
Right.
So they're on our dealer locator. So if you look up the dealer locator and you say, well, I'm in San Juan Capistrano. Oh, there's a Boot Barn right up the road here. You go there, they might have 3 or 4 hats. So that didn't really work real good. And so we just said, hey, we're probably not a good fit for Boot Barn.
How
But
about
Cavenders does a really good job.
I was going to ask you about Cavenders. Are they doing? I mean, they used to do 10x, 7x, 10x, and 40x, and that was about it. Are they doing anything better now?
10s and 40s predominantly, and then obviously straws.
Yeah.
But more colors. They're adding more colors this year. So
Okay. Yeah, they used to do black and gray, I think.
yeah, steel.
Yeah.
Now they'll have pecan, and we'll have some new colors in there.
All right.
They want to know if they're getting new styles in also for 5-inch brims.
The 5-inch brims are predominantly in 40x and 100x. We've eliminated them in the 10x just because the body isn't. So bodies are made up of the mixture of hair, but there's also a gram weight. So if the gram weight is too low, the brim gets wonky or doesn't hold up real good. So it made more sense for us to focus on a better quality hat. So 40s and 100s are where you're going to get the 5-inch brims.
In addition to Keith Maddox, I'd be interested to hear who else might be some of the most influential people in your life, asks Mike K.
Okay. I've got a few that have really inspired me. Obviously, my father, but lost him at the age of 47. I was 21 or 22. That was devastating. Then I had an uncle but he lived in the state of Washington, a grandfather that was an inspiration. My grandfather always had a funny saying for everything, so I picked up a lot of that from him. And then I ran into a guy on the Rancheros ride, and we were sitting by each other and at a campfire, and he said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I'm in the hat business." I said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "Well, I'm a football coach." And it was Coach John Baxter, special teams coach for USC and then Michigan, and now he's at Fresno State. He has a way of communicating that I get it, I understand it. He'll say things like, holding is not a penalty of the hands, it's a penalty of the feet. You were in the wrong spot, so you had to hold the guy. He has a bunch of sayings, and I've incorporated them in. It's like Keith and I were talking about making a trip to Portugal. And Keith said, well, shoot, can we do this over the phone or on a Zoom? Because he wasn't feeling well. And I said to him, you can't milk a cow over the phone. You got to go there and you got to lay your forehead on their side. And he said, okay, well, I don't feel like going, but you're going. So I made a trip to Portugal to meet with our supplier there and make sure that we were getting what we needed.
And we have another comment, and this comes from Cindy Hyber, who also was in our hat shaping school last week. Hi, Cindy.
Hey,
She says,
I want to say real quick, though, that we didn't make this happen, but for some reason, like half of this class last week all bought American hats.
Yes.
I'm just gonna throw it out there. Everybody in my truck that rode with me there and back bought hats.
That's
Hold on.
true.
And everybody in my truck decided to go to Best Hat and get them.
Yeah.
So, just throwing that out there.
Yes, they all bought
100X.
100X or better at Best Hat, but they also They were in RS too.
NRS.
So they bought something there too.
Ruben bought his 1022 straw there.
Yeah, okay.
And then he bought a 100X natural at best.
Right.
And then we got Gisela bought a 100X black,
Yeah.
Rachel bought a 100X black, and Cindy bought a 40X pecan.
And Cindy's question?
She says, thank you for saying you don't have to be raised as a cowboy for it to be okay to wear a hat. I just bought a hat and I'm loving it. I love that it's more about a way of life.
That's right. And that's what it is. I mean, you're representing the great iconic American cowboy. I'll tell you, great things have happened to me, and I call it the hat factor. But phenomenal things have happened to me in a hat. And I've worn a hat in some awkward situations where I found out because of the hat, then it turned out to be a very good situation.
Well, speaking of that, it's actually on my list of would you tell the story of...
Sure. I'm trying to think, it was 2004 or 2005. You can look up when the song Hey Ya, was the group Outkast?
Connor?
Outkast, yes.
Outkast, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Ya was a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I happened to be, I was in the clothing business. I wasn't in the hat business, but I was in the clothing business, and I was at the NFR, and I was standing at a bar, at the Ghost Bar, which is at the top of the Palms Hotel. And a guy comes stand next to me, and he was a little bit shorter than me, but he was about 375 pounds, and he was a black guy. He was a cool guy, and he goes, "Hey, man, what's up with the hat?" And I'm the only guy in there with a cowboy hat on, and I go, "Well, the National Finals Rodeo here is going to start in a couple of days." So he says, "Is that where they ride the cows?" And I go, "Yeah, that's kind of what we do." And I go, "What's your name?" And he goes, "My name's Kevin Black, and but the brothers call me Black Gold." And I go, "Oh, check it out." And at the time, I'm wearing a black gold hat, so I take my hat off, and the label on my hat says Black Gold. So he wants to try the hat on, and it didn't fit him, but he's checking in the mirror behind the bar, and he goes, "Can I go show my friends the hat?" And I go, "Yeah, go ahead." Off he goes with my hat. And so I'm standing at the Ghost Bar or at the bar at the Ghost Bar with hat hair. And he's off visiting with a group of guys. And anyways, it wasn't long before he's like, "Hey, man, come here. So I go over there. And the first guy that he introduced me to, his name was Monty. The second guy was Malik, and the third guy was Dr. Dre, but I didn't know who Dr. Dre was.
Wow.
But they had to teach me the handshake because I go, I only know that one. I don't know the bump and all this stuff. So they teach me the handshake. So at that point, I want to do the bump and handshake with everybody that, comes in there. And anyway, so Black Gold says, "You're going to drink with me all night long because I know you cowboys can drink, and you're drinking with me." I hope he doesn't listen to this thing.
We're gonna tag him.
So
tag Dre.
Yeah. So
oh yeah, we will.
Yeah, this is not Dr. Dre, but yeah. So I didn't know Dr. Dre. I kept wanting to look at my elbow. I had something was hurting on my elbow, but he wasn't that kind of doctor. But Black Gold wanted me to drink with him all night long, and so the long and short of that is, I told the waitress, I said, "No more Crown Royal." I had 2 of them. I said, "No more. You can just bring me Diet Coke in a little glass like that." They were like $18, and he's paying for everything. Well, the long and short of it, he's drinking a Cadillac margarita with no salt, and I just started teasing him, and just razzing him about, "Hey, we're gonna drink, or what are we gonna do? We come here to get a haircut, or we're gonna drink? What are we gonna do?" And so all the guys around him just kept busting his chops about that. And anyway, the long and short of it, I called my wife, because invited me to come back to a party for the American Music Awards. He had the whole Ghost Bar that booked for the next night. So I called my wife and said, "Hey, I'm going to go to this party tomorrow night in Vegas with a bunch of rap guys and whatever." And she said, "Oh, okay, well, good. That sounded like you had a good time." I said, "Yeah, it was crazy." And she said, "Well, just do what you tell your daughters to do." And I'm like, "Oh, man, that's dirty pool." So anyway, it just was a crazy night, but it was all because of the hat. and something you didn't expect. I can't tell the whole story because there's some stuff in there that gets a little uh, inappropriate.
Okay. It's funny. I just remembered something that is on the wall of the office of the factory in Bowie, where Keith Maddox tells the story of how he got a better hotel room because of his hat.
That's right.
Yeah. So he was checking into the Marriott Marquis in New York City. He had a sport coat on, and the guy looked up and he goes, "Man, that's a beautiful hat you got on." He said, "Oh, yeah, thank you." He said, "I own American Hat Company." And the guy typing a little bit longer, and he said, "Mr. Maddox, would you like an upgrade?" He says, "That'd be great." The guy types a little bit longer and looks up at Keith and says, "Okay, I got you all set." He says, "You'll be calling me in about 20 minutes with a thank you." And Keith had like 3 doors to get to this. It was at a big giant suite overlooking Central Park or something. So, because of the hat, he got upgraded into a really nice motel room.
Yeah, that's the power of a hat.
Power of the hat. I call it the hat factor.
Oh, so I like that.
I wear the hat wherever I go. It doesn't matter. I've wore the hat to Brazil, in Europe, everywhere I go, wear the hat. And invariably, somebody will either compliment you on the hat or, but you got to look approachable and you got to smile at people. You can't be mean mugging them, while you're wearing a hat. That's not a good look.
So smile in your hat.
Yeah.
It's a great conversation starter.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
All right, so we've been going about 2 hours now, and I don't want to keep you too long. We've already kept a little longer than we said we were going to go, but maybe do 1 or 2 more questions.
They did ask about the X in straws. What does that mean?
We got rid of X's. We don't put X's in straws just because it was such a confusing thing, and we had stars in them for a little while. We took the stars out, didn't mean anything. So now we just have positive times. So.
Okay. They also wanted to know if they could buy the T-shirts that employees wear at the factory. So they always ask about that.
Yeah, we don't. The positive times is a thought process. It's a state of mind. It's not something we're trying to monetize or to sell. So we don't sell anything that's positive times on other than the patch.
And this was actually,
we don't sell the patches, by the way.
This was in my notes to ask you because everybody, they all want either a ball cap with American Honor, or a T-shirt with American Honor, or anytime they see like this, where can I get that? Where can I get that? And I have to tell them, look, American doesn't do any merchandise at all. They just sell hats. And you say we're a hat company.
We just want to do one thing and one thing really good. We're not here to make it's like In-N-Out Burger. I mean, they make hamburgers, fries, and milkshakes, and if you want a breakfast burrito, you don't go there.
That's right. I actually got in trouble for that, for the merchandise thing, because it was, I don't know, not long after I started at the factory. It was cold, and Mom does embroidery, and at that point she had started doing y'all's shirts.
Yep.
And I was like, will you just make me a beanie and just put the A on it, the font and everything, just the A. I was like, I don't need the whole thing on there, but just the A. And I wore it up there one day. This was the day before I was wearing a hat every day. And one of the managers came out, saw it, and said, take it off. Like, but
they didn't
why?
Say it like that. They
said it kindly.
They said, hey, Snoop Dogg, can you take off your beanie?
It was like, you got to take that off. I was like, why? They go, you don't want to let, because Keith Maddox is coming today, and do not let him see you wearing that beanie. Why? You don't think he'll like it? I know he won't like it. We don't make beanies. We make cowboy hats. Like, okay.
So to make a baseball cap is actually unconstitutional. We have a constitution. And just like the United States has a constitution, we have a constitution of what we can do and what we can't do. To make a baseball cap for us is unconstitutional. We just can't do it. We're not going to do it. I've had people make me samples and send me stuff, but we're not going. We sell cowboy hats. Invariably, what will happen is then we'll get somebody going, hey, I don't have your hat, but I got this ball. We don't sell ball caps. Anybody in the world has permission to wear a ball cap. We're trying to further the Western lifestyle and the cowboy. I mean, Carl Stressman is a good friend of ours, and he'll tell you the story about going to rope at Jim Shoulders' place, and he didn't feel like he deserved to wear a cowboy hat in front of Jim Shoulders, believe it or not. And he showed up the rope at Jim Shoulder's place, and he came in a baseball cap, and Jim Shoulder says, "We're not throwing a ball here." He says, "We're going to go rope. We'll get you a cowboy hat on." And so Carl had one in his truck, put it on. He said, "I've never looked back since then." So I'll wear a ball cap if I'm playing golf, or if I'm I don't play golf anymore, but if I'm let's say maybe even mowing the yard or on the tractor, and I want to put a set of headphones on or something, I'll wear a ball cap. I don't have anything against ball caps, but it's just not our thing. It's not what we do.
That's right.
Last one.
Last one.
Pick
Okay,
a good
let me
one.
see. Well, I just want to say in general, they are very delighted with your visit to the studio. They are really asking lots of questions, and we have, they're very interested in what American
Nice.
Hat
Very
Company
nice.
does
Yeah.
and what you do, of course. Is it true that American Hat Company made a hat for President Trump?
Yes.
A couple times, right?
Yes. So the first time he was elected, we got a call to make him a hat. And then this last time, Sid Miller called and said, "Hey, I want to make a hat for Donald Trump as a gift from him and the citizens of the state of Texas." So we made him 2 hats. So
And Travis Williamson says, Mr. Mundy, appreciate your giving and service to historical aviation. Very important to Fort Worth. Thank you.
very welcome.
Yes. And maybe we close with this one.
Okay.
What is
one
Mr.
for me.
Mundy's favorite drink?
Uh-oh.
What is my favorite drink?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, I'm not really. I used to drink like Pendleton and Coke, Pendleton on the rocks, something like that. But I don't really drink anymore. I mean, I'm not against it, and I'm not saying that in a certain situation I wouldn't have a drink. But with a lot of kids, we do a lot of kid stuff. I just kind of got to the point where I just said, "Is it really that important to me to have a drink?" No, not really. So I'll drink a Coke Zero every now and then. I really like Dr. Pepper. That would be my first choice, but um, it's not good for me. I drink a lot of water. To be honest, yeah, water.
That's good.
Good water, yeah.
Have your bottle there next to you right now.
Yeah.
You can see it.
So I got the big jug. Goes with me everywhere.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this podcast with Cowboy Cartel. It's fantastic, says Justin Kepard. And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's really a tribute to you guys. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. I just kind of wanted to come and clear some things up and make sure that I contributed a little bit to this, because you guys are talking about the history of the hat, the makeup of the hat. And again, I don't want to say anything. I would never say anything bad about anybody's hat. Matter of fact, my friend Coach Baxter, when we were in that ride, he hands me his hat and says, "Tell me what you think about my hat." And I had to go, "Oh, nice buckle."
Nice.
Yeah, nice buckle set, and he goes, "No, what about the hat?" I go, "I love that buckle set." And finally he goes, "Well, tell me about your hat." So I tell him all about my hat, and he goes, "Give me my hat back." He said, "I'll never wear that hat again." And so he's been a hat fan, and he's a great friend, and he's the guy actually that I called when I had to do a eulogy at Keith Maddox's funeral. I said, "Coach, I need some help," and so he's the one that gave me the great advice of your job is to stand there and deliver and to tell the people what Keith was all about. And you can't go up there and cry. If you do, you're failing him. You got to tell the people in the audience what he was about, give them a flavor of who he was, and save the deep water for the end. He said that way, if you start to drown, you can get to the shore. So that's the kind of stuff Coach Baxter, when he talks like that, I get it. I understand it. So I saved the sentimental, the heartfelt stuff for the very end so that I could get to the shore real quick. So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I now I'm at a loss because I'm listening to you. This happens every time we go to have a meeting with you in the office, and we sit there for a couple hours and we can just talk. And you have some of the best stories, and we really appreciate you coming and sharing some of them with me, with us. I'll tell you what, I didn't get through half of these cards. We could have gone another 2 hours, but
yeah, we don't do that. Everybody will be asleep.
we're gonna have to do another one.
I'll come back.
All right.
Come back. If everybody likes it, I'll come back.
I
I
think
just
they,
didn't want to.
yes.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to.
And maybe we'll get Connor loosened up, and
Don't bet on
he
it.
was doing pretty good there at the end.
Connor's a great success story. I think the world of Connor.
Yeah, we do too. We think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have my moments.
All right, we'll
he had a birth defect when he was born. You knew that, right?
Uh-oh.
Did you know?
Uh-oh.
You didn't know that?
Which one?
which one?
There's a few.
Yeah, I can't tell that. I guess I can tell it on. He had no eyelids.
Uh-huh.
Did you know that?
No eyelids.
No eyelids. Yeah.
Where'd they come from?
So when they did the circumcision, they used the skin there for his eyelids. So just look at him really close. He'll look at you, look cockeyed from time and again.
Oh, Connor.
Let me like this.
Yeah, like that.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have the camera zoomed in, but I know somebody's watching.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
We'll get-
see.
We'll get that fourth camera fixed for when you
We'll
come.
get the zoom in.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
They are saying yes, please come back.
Okay.
All right, we'll come back and we'll do
Mhm.
another podcast.
Part 2.
Part 2, absolutely. Keith, we want to thank you for coming out and spending the time with us and talk to these guys and share your story with us. And there's a lot more, like I said, to be said, and some great stories that you guys didn't get to hear, but you will soon.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Thanks for what you're doing.
Guys, if you are not following American Hat on social media, go do it. And if you're not a member of the American Hat Company Facebook group, the enthusiast group, come check us out on Facebook. There's a link in the description below. We'd love to have you, and we talk American hats all the time. So until next time, thanks for being here, and we'll catch you soon. Something like that. I don't know. Connor, you do your thing. Say goodbye, Connor.
Goodbye, Connor. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.